China is one of the country, I would rather say the rare of the rarest country in the world, which was considered as the poor country or the developing country till 2000. And all of the way, out of the way, supernova explosion happened in China, and China become a developed country. Not developed country. China is far ahead from United States right now as far as export is concerned. China export goods export. I'm not talking about services export. Only goods export of China is $3.5 trillion, whereas goods export of America is $1 trillion. Services export of America is around $800 billion. Services export of China is $400 billion. Means China is far ahead than United States. But the border dispute of China is also far ahead than United States. China meets border with many countries, and everywhere more or less China has border dispute. We have talked about Chinese border dispute with Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, then we have talked about Bhutan, then we talked about Diao Island with Japan. These are the border dispute of China and other countries. Anyway, the Diao Island, or I believe Sankai Island, that is near to Taiwan, and that is right now administered by Japan, but it is claimed by China. So Japan is the only country which is dominating over China, and Japan and China, the dispute territory that is governed by Japan. We are talking about Paracel Island. Paracel Island. Paracel is a group archipelago. Archipelago means group of islands that exist between Vietnam and Philippines. There is a group of islands. Strategically, it is highly important. Strategically, it is highly important island that is called Paracel Island. From Paracel Island, the Vietnam, China, Macau region of the China, and then Philippines, and then the Taiwan. More or less everything is visible from there. Very strategic location is the Paracel Island. Paracel Island, there are two parts in the Paracel Island. One is northern side, a group of island. One is southwestern group of island. Southwestern group of island and northern island, more or less historically, they were controlled by Chinese and Vietnamese both. Southwest till 1974, this archipelago that is called Paracel Archipelago, it was controlled by China and Vietnam. But this is in history. But actually, it was controlled by Vietnam. This belongs to Vietnam. Why it belongs to Vietnam? Because Vietnam is falls in Indian subcontinent, and en route to Vietnam to Philippines, that is also considered as part of Indian subcontinent. This archipelago, Paracel, falls in. Portuguese people, they give a story that this island group were not there at all. Till 16th century, these they appeared from sea. These are around 7.8 square kilometer of the total island. Around 130 islands are there. 7.8 square kilometer. And these are also called yellow sand island, because they are only sand out there. These are important from the engineering point of view also. I believe there are mines out there that China is digging something. It is taking out some metal from there. Whatever it is, the Portuguese are saying that these islands were not there. 16th century, it came out of the sea all of a sudden. Anyway, now it was controlled by Vietnam more or less. So 1945 time, 1955 time frame, I believe, Vietnam became two came in two parts, or 1945, North Vietnam and South Vietnam. In 1955 or in 1955, I believe, Vietnam became in two parts, North Vietnam and South Vietnam. Earlier, it was a colony of France people, French. In 1955 time frame, French people, the Ho Chi Minh, who is considered as the father of the nation of the Vietnam, he took control of the part of the Vietnam that is called North Vietnam with the help of China. And South Vietnam, it remained with the French, and later it came under control of United States. That is South Vietnam. So South Vietnam, they fought war with under the leadership of Ho Chi Minh from the North Vietnam. South Vietnam, they fought war with the United States for the liberty, for the freedom. And when the war was going on at that time in the Paracel Island, Paracel Island, we will see where it is. It is around 350 kilometers eastward of the Vietnam en route to Philippines. It would be around 600 to 700 kilometers from the Philippines, west of Philippines, east of Vietnam, and it is around 300 kilometers south of the Macau of the China, I believe. Okay, in 1974 time frame, this was more or less controlled by Vietnam only, but Chinese were also controlling part of it. Now, the kind of navy forces of the Vietnam in 1974, they saw that Chinese fishing ship, they are fishing in the islands. So they fired a gunshot to kind of to make the attentivity that it belongs to them. So Chinese fishing ship, they reported it to People's Republic of the China, that was the new communist government, came in the China, that this is a kind of battle kind of scenario where we are fishing in the Paracel Island, and the Vietnamese forces are placing gun on us. Then People's Liberation Army, then they sent submarine and warship and those kind of things. On for one day, there was war between South Vietnam and China won the war. And on 1974 time period, full island was taken care by the China. It slipped from the South Vietnam. Anyway, 1975 South Vietnam became independent of United States, and in 1976 time frame, South Vietnam and North Vietnam, they become one Vietnam. That is the story. But whatsoever the Indian territory, I would rather say Indian territory, that was historically part of Vietnam, that came in the hand of China in 1974. So right now, Yellow Sand Island or Paracel Island, 7.8 square kilometer, whose coastal line is 530 kilometer around, all around. If I take all the island group, if someone makes a perimeter, it will become a 538 kilometer or something like that. I have something in written. Okay, so Paracel Island is 7.75 square kilometer. 518 kilometer is the coastline. And 1974, also known as Battle of Paracel Island, where PRC, China took over this island. Okay, so this island is 300 kilometers south of the China, whereas 370 kilometers from the Vietnam. It is not written how much it is from Philippines. I believe 600 to 700 west of the Philippines. It is very important strategically also that this island falls in between. Person is going from Vietnam to Philippines. Both falls in Indian subcontinent. In that sense, for the harbor ship, this is important. Anyway, right now China has a 20 outpost. China has it established their outpost, means for the harbor ship or for military or whatever it is. Okay, this Paracel Island is in two parts. One is called Amphitrite group, that is the northern group, and one is Crescent group, that is the southwestern group. Carbon exploration happened there. Means hydrocarbon are found there. So they do exploration of hydrocarbon. Both were taking out hydrocarbon from there earlier. Anyway, the 1974 war happened and 18 soldiers from the China, they got killed, and 100 soldiers from the Vietnam, they got killed. 67 wounded from the China, whereas in 100, what I am saying, killed and wounded in Vietnam. 48 were captured from the Vietnam. In Chinese language, it is called Xisa Island, Xisha, Xisa Island. In Vietnamese, it is called Huang Sa Island or archipelago. Okay, anyway, in 16th century, Portuguese people, they had claimed that this island has come from the sea. That's why it is Yellow Sand Island. Later, it became part of German. They also captured these islands for some years. Then French people, they captured because they had captured Vietnam. Then it came under control of South Vietnam, more or less America, and then it became part of China right now. So this is the border dispute between China and Vietnam. And Vietnam, why? What is the story behind why we are giving the news of border dispute of China? China is a country which is famous in controlling the empty region. If you don't use your if you don't use your island, then China will control it. This is China. If India was left Tibet and control over Tibet and Kasi Kasgar, China came and took it away. Okay, now China is fighting for the Pamir Range because Kyrgyzstan more or less they are not using it. Similarly, Vietnam was more or less it was not using Paracel Island. If India come to its prosperity the way it was earlier, then certainly there will be huge transportation between Vietnam and Philippines because that is the only path between India and Philippines to travel. If transportation commutation starts again, then China has to leave this island. That is the only way to get back the island. You cannot keep something idle and say it belongs to me, it belongs to me. That's why not Vietnam, India lost that island. I believe that India will get back its glory and then it will be the kind of the trade intra-Indian subcontinent. It will come to a height that it used to be. Then Indian people or Vietnamese people, they will start traveling to Philippines and while to and fro. I don't know what this is called. To and fro. That communication will start, commutation will start, and then they will chase away Chinese out from there because that belongs to India. Anyway, this is what it is. So someday it would happen.